We've gone through the first two topics on our top 10 list. Now we're down to number 8 and 7. Guys, number 8 I had FIFA corruption. And it seems so when you have a organization like FIFA take all the money and keep it to themselves. It's a non-profit, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. They don't get taxed. Anyways.
We should run that.
Well, exactly. You're thinking to yourself, maybe I'm in the wrong business. I should be running as a FIFA executive. Okay, what changes, if any, should FIFA make or will make going into 2016?
I don't know, because they have a lot of hirings to do. One thing I don't get is Sepp Blatter going, well, I didn't know any of that corruption was below me, all that sort of stuff. I'm like, wouldn't that be grounds for firing anyways? How do you not know 14 people are stealing from your company?
Also, another aspect of this just happened last week with the president, or I guess, suspended president, Sepp Blatter. He came back and is now talking to the committee that he put in but doesn't really respect, in terms pleading to get his job back.
See, this is the thing, though, is FIFA is going to be corrupt, and I do not know how you will go about to not make that a corrupt organization. There's just way too much money at stake. There's way too much money to make. You're dealing with so many different kind of bodies, different countries. We know when some of the World Cups where they get awarded, like, how do you give it to the Middle East in the middle of the summer when it's 50 degrees and all that sort of stuff? When you think about it now, you have to move it to the winter, because how do you play soccer in 50 degrees? How do you defeat corruption when there's greedy people everywhere? What are you going to do? How do you do it?
Well, the only reason why, in fairness, is because you have countries like Liechtenstein making the same amount as, say, Germany. And if you can't say Liechtenstein or don't know what that is, well, you know what? I don't blame you, because most people don't. So here's the thing. What happens now? Because you have Sepp Blatter, was running for re-election, got re-elected, and said he was stepping down, but now it's not stepping down. Does he stay in power going forward in 2016?
I think it's already such a wash and such a gong show with the whole corruption that he probably will get let back in. And the saddest thing with FIFA is it's such a huge organization, and to let all this go on underneath, and there's no way that he didn't know what was going on. I think it's just it's a shame, you know what I mean? And especially an organization like FIFA to go through something like that, I think it's insane.
You're probably going to start seeing countries themselves pulling out of FIFA and not wanting to be involved in that. And I could see it happening. Say someone like the United States, who's the ones leading this charge, stepping up and saying, we're not going to be involved in anything that has to do with FIFA anymore, and then creating their own. And there is some movement for that to begin. But it has to begin with FIFA itself being more transparent and showing what they're actually doing, which they're terrible at. And if Sepp Blatter goes back in, it's going to go right to the old thing. So if he comes in, 2016 to whenever he leaves will be the exact same. It will be no different. It'll just be in the new guys underneath, they'll probably get caught.
And if he gets back in, it's just corruption at its best. They just know that this is their way of getting out of it. I don't see teams pulling out like what you said, because it's the biggest show. There's nowhere else to go when it comes to soccer.
But there's a groundswell if there's countries like the Germans, like the United States,
Brazilians,
bigger nations. Yeah. But if they decide to say, you know what, we're not going to compete, that's a lot of money that sponsorship will say, I don't know if I want to back it up. If you're going to have a team like Albania, if those Albanians there, no disrespect, I'm just saying, who do you rather watch, Brazil or Albania? People want to choose Brazil, and sponsors feel the same way because it comes down to money. All right, guys, well, talk about big money. Year of the Fight is what we have at number 7, generating a lot of money. I'm talking about the Money Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao fight. And then you had the fight of 2015 in this case as well, with Holly Holm and Ronda Rousey with UFC 93. Andrew, we'll begin with you. What do you take away from both fights?
I kind of take away it's more of a year of disappointment when it comes to fight. The Manny Pacquiao Mayweather fight was the most disappointing thing we've ever witnessed in boxing, and might go down as the worst fight ever. It was so bad. And if you watched it, it was not. If you spent money on it, oh well.
It generated a lot.
Yeah, it generated a lot, but man, if you spent money on that, I'm sorry. You probably should try and still get your money back. It was that bad. The Holly Holm Ronda Rousey fight, disappointing in the sense that it ended this aura that was Ronda Rousey and how great she was. Good for the sport because they needed someone to finally come up and challenge her. But now we don't have this aura that is Ronda Rousey, this amazing fighter that we have. And it kind of, in a sense, has taken maybe UFC back a little bit unless they can promote Holly Holm the same way.
I think you need, though, an underdog, and that's what Holly Holm provides. Is the UFC the place for the underdog? No, it's more of a brash, in-your-face kind of thing. Ronda Rousey, a lot of people said maybe she needed to be kind of brought down a little bit because there was no one who was able to, challenge her in the way that she should be. And we always we were just talking about high school football, they need a challenge. And maybe this will build the sport of MMA for women in something in that sense. You look at the fights, I think the biggest disappointment would be like 13 seconds or like under a minute. Like that's just the problem though, is you spend all this money to watch this big fight and then it's over.
Last thing you want to do is pay $90 for pay-per-view and only finish off with 13 seconds. That sounds like a terrible, terrible way to go, and sounds like a terrible date to begin with as well. So
I do like how Ronda Rousey predicted her demise when she said it wasn't going to happen. You saw that, right? Like a month before or something. She's like, she's going to try and kick me in the head, but that's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it actually became the thing that took her down. But it was the aggressiveness that actually ended up hurting Ronda Rousey. I would actually have to say, with you guys, I would have to agree to a certain extent. I think boxing took a big hit, but UFC, with Holly Holm winning, absolutely skyrocketed in terms of the popularity compared to the two. We knew boxing was waning, and the fight that everybody wanted was 5 years too late and about 6 rounds too long. And you look at the other side, I thought it was fantastic. And I would consider myself a casual observer of the UFC. I was enthralled. I got into the hype. I drank the Dana White Kool-Aid, and I would like to have a second sip as well. I thought he did a fantastic job, and I thought Ronda Rousey losing was actually the best thing for the sport.
It probably was the best thing in terms of, like you said, giving some more competition, because that's what you want. But look at the year that was. It was short fights in first round. Look at the last one that we just had, McGregor and Aldo. 13 seconds. And it's hard as a casual fan for me to say, I'm going to go put 60, 90, whatever dollars down to watch that. It may go.
But you're not going to please everybody, because we had a 12-round fight with Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather, and that ended up being a dud, and people said that was the worst fight, and you even said it yourself. We didn't get you very quickly, Brett. Like, what were your thoughts on the whole, I guess, fights period, I should say, from both UFC and boxing?
It was the first ever boxing match I literally ever watched, and it was a disappointment because, I wanted to see somebody get knocked out, especially with the two that were fighting. And the fact that it went 12 rounds, and I don't know, it was boring, it was brutal, worst fight, and I agree with you. And I'm a casual observer of the UFC, and, it was awesome to see Ronda Rousey go out there and knock people out in like 5 seconds because it's a chick, just a beast, laying people out. And then all of a sudden, like, one slip up and boom, kick the head, and it's game over. So I thought that was cool, and I hope there's a second match between those two, and whatever happens, if Ronda Rousey loses and she retires, good on her, You got showed up twice. But if it's a 1-1 draw, there's got to be a round 3, And then after that, I think it's time to let those two go, and whoever wins, find a new challenger. That's my opinion on it.
I have to say this, and they know what they're doing, even if it's only 13 seconds, because I do not like MMA whatsoever. I will watch McGregor, though, because for other reasons, I will watch him. But I'm not an MMA fan, but you know what? I watch the fights. Why? Because you buy into this,
You buy into the system, and the hype gets in there.
How much do you pay for me versus Moses? Quick.
What was that?
How much do you pay for me versus
I thought you two were going to fight, and I thought us two were going to fight.
We're going to actually leave that on hold, pay
2016.
our bills because we need to pay them first, and then maybe let the people out there decide who would win or lose, and maybe the 2016 fight will be coming up. We'll have 6 and 5 coming up on the top 10 list next.